It should be live.
Now, the Expressway QuaranTeaTime with your host, Zachary Rubino.
Oh, God. Hello, and welcome to the first ever Expressway Cinema Rentals Quarantine Happy Hour. This is our excuse to get together with friends and coworkers and play commercials that are still playing on YouTube and just kind of talk about some recent work. So we have a few extra people in this room right now, but that's great. We got myself, John, and Kevin from Expressway. We got Phil Tartaglione's in the bottom right corner. But Phil, we're going to bring you back in later.
Sure.
I mean, well, no, you can hang out, whatever. Andrew Joffe and our special guest, Matt Joffe.
Hi,
hello, everyone. It's good to see you guys. Welcome to Quarantine Time. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited that we're all here. We haven't seen each other in physical bodies in person in quite a long time, and we're just kind of looking to talk about some recent projects that Matt's done specifically, and ask some questions. Let our audience ask some questions. But there's something, we've kind of got a special thing going on here because we have not only Matt Joffe, we have Andrew Joffe, and together the two of them are Joffco. And Joffco is a really awesome production company that they've been making music videos for quite a bit of time. And we've always loved working with them. So first, I just wanted to start off and if you guys could tell us a little bit about Joffco, when you started, what the aim was, and kind of what your working relationship is.
You want to go first, Andrew? I don't care, but
well, so I mean, Joffco started. We didn't really call ourselves Joffco until maybe a few years ago, but we did a music video for my friend's band, Brick and Mortar, and they needed a video. They had a really great song, and I wanted to direct something, so I just paid for it out of my own pocket, and we made a video, and everyone came out for free. And you guys donated gear. Matt donated gear. He donated his camera. Everyone donated their time, and I don't know. I think we made something cool. They got signed, and then we just kept making videos. And so me and Matt were like, "Yeah, we're gonna keep working together, obviously, right?" So that's how.
And the interesting fact was the main location for that video was actually above old Expressway when you guys were at Jefferson.
Right, which is now Neighborhood Film Company's office.
Oh yeah, when the birds were living up there and the ceiling was leaking, and
yeah, and we were shooting off blanks upstairs, and there's just birds flying out of the rafters.
I don't know how many productions have shot up there before it got renovated and turned into actual offices. There must be a dozen or so projects.
Yeah,
and then so that was the first brick and mortar video, but you guys did a couple brick and mortar videos, right?
Yeah, we've done, I want to say 3 or 4.
So how does it usually go? I mean, Andrew, you're typically directing these, and Matt, you're shooting these. But I know you guys both work in the industry elseways. You're always busy working on something, not just your projects. So how do you guys make time for both of these, I don't know, career paths, essentially?
Well, I think it's important to note too now, Matt and I are co-directing from here on out. So, he'll probably still be shooting a lot of these projects, or we'll have, someone else shooting and we'll just focus on directing. But yeah, I don't know. We both, you know how it is in this business. It's you don't have to work every day. And even if you're supposed to, sometimes you get yourself covered and you just prioritize the time. So if we have a cool project coming up, we just say, this week we're not doing anything else. We're focusing on that.
Or you can be a totally crazy person and continue to work other jobs, and
that's what we do.
Yeah, I was
up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and be like, "Oh my god, I forgot to lock that location. Oh my god!" And then you set a little note. You fall back asleep for 3 hours, and then you wake up as soon as that location office opens, and you email them. And you hope to God, because you were planning on shooting there in 48 hours or something. And that's the joy of music videos. Often it's a lot of last minute, just putting out every fire known to man.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never seen you guys do a music video where you just like break away from whatever other like more paying jobs you're getting to then just like do a music video. Like you always seem to be juggling quite a few things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're anyone unless you're like, director X or, like Mark Romanek or some huge, music video director. Like most music video directors don't get rich doing it. Most of them, I found this out the hard way. They have another job. A lot of these directors are working in restaurants while writing treatments and stuff. It's really like a creative outlet for a lot of music video directors. It's a way to like flex and kind of, do whatever you want instead of necessarily paying the bills. So oftentimes we still have to work on those commercials, those industrials, the TV shows to pay our bills. But then, we're given the opportunity to really do something that excites us. And luckily, we're usually supported by a fantastic film crew here in Philadelphia and occasionally in Los Angeles, and people that just believe in making them, creative art. And yeah, it doesn't involve a lot of sleep, I can tell you that.
No, it does
Yeah,
not.
so I mean the first project we're gonna watch that you guys, it's one of your more recent music videos. It's the MisterWives Why video, and I think you guys were juggling a lot, especially at this time. I think Andrew might had a very unique experience here. Just want to tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, that music video is a story for the books. So like in our usual fashion, Matt was going to shoot this video. I was going to direct it. We came up with the treatment together. Matt actually he wrote out an idea that he had about shooting out on the streets, like in Philly, like at night, and just finding all these colorful locations. And then I put the treatment together, sent it in, the band liked it. So we started moving forward, but I was like, hey, just FYI, the dates you guys want to shoot fall around my wife's due date. So there's a chance that might interrupt my ability to direct this video, but we've already worked with that band on 2 other videos. So they knew Matt, they knew our relationship, that we were pretty much, hive minding anyway. And I was like, look, if I got to step away, like, are you comfortable with Matt still, like, just, we'll figure it out. And they're like, of course. So, and of course my son was born the night before we were supposed to shoot that video. So, yeah, Phil, who was going to gaff it, became the DP. Matt jumped on full as the director, and I watched from afar on Instagram, and it came out amazing.
Yeah, it did. Before we watch this, do you guys have any? Well, let's just watch it. That was awesome, guys. I love that video.
Thanks.
So good. I know Kevin and John had some questions about you, and we're gonna bring Phil back in because Phil shot this and did a amazing job.
You really did.
Thank you very much.
Matt, you're still muted.
Everybody's back. Oh, I can chime in with my first lighting nerd question. This would be aimed toward Matt and Phil. Obviously, you guys had some very tasteful Asteras in the frame use in that video, but also it seems like you really use them to your advantage to carry to carry a lot of the lighting in the rest of it. You guys had a lot of locations. Can you talk about kind of like your use of the Asteras outside of when they were in the frame and how they helped?
Matt, you want to take it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm gonna toss it to Phil in a sec, but basically, I think Andrew and I have done a lot of videos recently in studios, and we kind of like wanted to get back to our roots with this one. So we kind of picked locations that were already colorful, and we just really wanted to augment them because a lot of times, you could do stuff in a studio, but you really have to build that world. We wanted to highlight Philly as like sort of a Technicolor Alice, goes down the rabbit hole kind of landscape in the middle of the night. So we used the Asteras pretty much out of necessity. I mean, we had one night to shoot this. It was right around the summer solstice. So I don't even think there's 12 hours of nighttime to shoot. And we had a lot of locations to hit. So pretty much we showed up and we just started sprinting. And it was like, maybe we get 3 takes, maybe it was good in 2, and then move on. So, I mean, it was really out of necessity that we used these lights, but also because we wanted to really go for that ultra, like, neon, super saturated kind of look. And I mean, they're probably one of the best tools out there, in my opinion. But I'll toss it over to Phil.
Yeah, I agree. They were incredibly helpful. I think there was like any kind of nook and cranny that we could find was just like toss a tube, find a color that complements the others or that complements the location, and roll with it. I think they allowed us like 2 to 3 different looks out of a bunch of different locations. We were able to kind of just change them on the fly. Breslin was just like on it. I think Breslin was gaffing that at the time, and he was just like, he had a couple different looks baked into almost every location that we did. It was extremely helpful.
Yeah, I mean, one like thing is like even in the Magic Garden performance, we did a crazy thing where we actually rigged a Helios, which is like the 2-foot Astera, onto Phil's Easy Rig as an eye light. So we used them for eye lights in the shot, you know, behind architectural elements. Like the scene with Mandy in front of the Ferris wheel, that was just one Astera tube. It was Kevin Gallagher just, you know, Hollywooding it above the camera. And basically we just really tried to pick places where like a lot of our background lighting, architectural lighting was already done. And all we had to do is like just give like a little bit of fill or a subtle key or whatever.
Wasn't the band's manager Hollywooding in a stereotube at one point?
Yeah, so like I said, it was one long night of shooting, and then we did a half day the night before, which we got the stuff on like the multicolored bridge walkway that has like all those little puck lights that change color. We got the Ferris wheel performance, and we got the electric light mural, the big neon setup in South Philly. And basically, you know, that was almost a whole night's worth of just running around right there. So we knew there's no way to jam that mixed all the other locations, even though we were sort of really only budgeted for one night. But at one point in the electric light mural, Phil's running around, shooting handheld, killing it. I some reason Kevin Gallagher got like lost or couldn't find parking. Of course, I put up parking signs in South Philly, no one obeyed them. So there was nowhere to park cars. We just like parked them in the alleyway. And at one point, Kevin's not there to Hollywood the Astera, so the band's manager, Jared, is running around. And I'm like, go closer, go farther. And I was running the smoke machine. So I was trying to run around with the monitor and the smoke machine and actually direct it. But at some point, I just kind of was like, hey, Phil, that from far away looked pretty good. Like, what did you think? And I just kind of had to trust Phil, and I had to trust Ryan Baldwin, who was pulling focus. Because, yeah, the band's manager was lighting that scene. It was about as running gun as it could get.
Yeah,
Awesome.
You were doing, I think you were doing the smoke machine, and you had a monitor at some point running this way and that. It was, you were wearing a lot of hats that night. It was crazy.
Yeah, I was pretty tired at the end of that one. I think everyone was.
Well, that's sort of, I had some questions about like working within, trying to keep it within a 14-hour day so no one dies. And within like, what did you have, like 5 locations?
So the next night, let's see. So if we did those 3, the next day
It was a night and a half, really. You said it was one night, but it was like a night and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got
And
it, right.
believe it or not, Kevin, it was the, I think, only Joffe production to wrap in less than 12 hours.
And to get real film permits for the places we shot.
And actually got real permits.
The second night was the shortest night I remember shooting for a Joffe project in my life.
Congratulations to you all.
Basically the sun came up and just was like, no, you're done. And we're like, okay, cool. We got everything.
We got it right as the sun came up.
That's perfect. So outside of like all the color you're using in it, is there any like, and this is kind of at Matt and Breslin, or wait, no, I have all their roles confused because this one's a little different. Phil and Breslin and Matt too. Do you have any like, are there any creative lighting techniques that you utilized during this that you hadn't used before on previous Joffe things or afterwards? And is there anything that you kind of have that you utilize across all of your projects that you find works lighting wise?
Since I did a lot, I gaffed 2 of the MisterWives videos, and I worked with Phil as the gaffer on another. I think this particular video, I think we bounced more light and played with more reflections than we had on previous music videos. You guys could give me your thoughts on that, but I feel like we did a lot of crazy reflections and shimmers and shines, and
Dichroic Film was definitely a new tool.
I was going to ask about that. Because I saw you in some of the BTS photos. I saw like I thought it was like a Mylar or something getting skinned to like 4x frames, but I wasn't really sure what that was, other than something to create a reflection.
That was a piece we used in the Magic Gardens, I believe, right?
Yeah, and it was also used in the opening, the first setup. That still is an S360, which is like the large sky panel on a lift, and that gave us just like a colorful, baseline ambient over the whole Magic Gardens. But it's such a huge lift, it doesn't look like the big sky panel. But
yeah, I was looking for a photo of that film, but I couldn't find one. Sorry.
Yeah, it's called Dichroic Film, and you could put it on windows or something. It essentially just creates like a spectrum when light passes through it. And the same thing, like if you're bouncing like a Leco off of it or something, you could like wave it around. It'll just send rainbow patterns all over the place, and it's really cool. And the band actually ended up I feel like that aesthetic has like played a lot in their whole like album cycle too.
Yeah, you see it like on their album art and different like singles and stuff. So
did they like take the film home with them and just like use it for all their promotional materials after that, at that point?
Where is that film, Matt? I want some of that.
I have some of it still, but yeah, the band did take some. I forget if Marissa, the production designer, took any. She probably did, but she did a great job because we were like, we're not sure how this works, but here, take this, and we want rainbow reflections off it. So it was sort of a last minute like collab between her and Jeannie, and somehow they got it to work.
Yeah, I know that Silver Surfer and a Pizza Box came back with it on it still on the truck, and me and Tom Paolo fought off everyone else to be like, no, we're taking this home with us. It's ours. I've never seen this before. I know
it's not cheap, that stuff.
It's not cheap, yeah, but it is super cool. I'd never seen it before, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. I saw you guys were putting it onto the Pizza Box and then using J-Lar like clumped up in balls to sort of separate it away from the shiny side. So you're getting a little bit even more of a breakup off of that, which was pretty cool. Very smart, that Joffe. Very smart.
Yeah, where'd you guys get that idea from?
I stole it from this artist that I follow called Sign Pierce or Signa Pierce. I don't know how to pronounce it, but she uses it like all the time in all of her art installations and stuff. And like, I actually reached out to her to ask her what it was, and she never got back to me. I actually asked her to work on the Paramore video too, and she did get back to me, but she couldn't do it. But anyway, I was a big fan of her work. I thought that stuff was really cool. I found out what it was, and we used it. So
yeah, and I mean, another trick that I think, if you're a lighting technician, which obviously we all are, that's sort of the other thing too. Is like, as far as like directing and making music videos, Andrew and I do direct them, but we do have day jobs as lighting technicians. I've been shooting more, so I don't do it as much anymore, but we're all lighting technicians. So if you're a lighting technician, you're very familiar with like the old Kino clip and magnet trick, but that was super useful, and that's what made that bridge shot really cool. And luckily, I think Phil just had a ton of these things like made in his car already. So like it's such a big shot, but like none of those tubes existed in that frame. But I think we had, correct me if I'm wrong, Brez and Phil, but I think we had 2 sets, right? Or 3.
We had 16.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah, so we had 16 of those. But what's nice too is that bridge has, like kind of like plexiglass sides. So you take 16, but all the reflections that bounce off, something that looks like double that. But I was very impressed that I feel like Breslin and his squad had those lights up in like 45 minutes or less.
Oh, the speed in which they went up after we talked about where you wanted them placed was, I'm going to say 20 minutes. And, you know, once you have the tablet out and you control them, it was just like pretty crazy to see how much light was bouncing around. And then it was just kind of picking what color we liked.
Yeah. And it allowed Mandy like to be able to just move throughout the frame without having to avoid any kind of like lights or fixtures or whatever. We were able to just kind of use that whole bridge location and just let her like open up and do whatever she wanted. And we kind of kept like the spirit of the location in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just 16 Astera tubes, and then I know that there was 2 L7Cs at the back, which are, I think, controversial lights. I'm not exactly sure how everyone feels about them.
That's a good word.
They have a little bit of a love-hate. I think they were awesome for that use, for, you know, their ability to, you know, be RGB and do whatever color we wanted. I also like them in spot. Personally, I don't like them in flood, but if anyone else wants to weigh in on those lights, by all means.
I use them. A production company I shoot for and gaff for owns a couple, so I've been using them for the better part of a decade now, and they're a little too heavy. They're a little not bright enough, and their beam is a little funky. So finding the proper use for them is not always easy. So I find that they're the best background lights. So in this particular case, that's exactly what we used them for, was background lights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're okay.
Phil,
They're good lights.
I mean, that scene in particular, there's a lot of funky stuff happening. Just lenses and flares and whatnot. What were you guys shooting lens-wise with this and camera and?
Camera, I think we were using the, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was the Sony F55.
It was the Venice.
It was the Venice. Okay, cool. And we use anamorphics too. And Matt, can you weigh in on what anamorphics?
Yeah, those are Lomo.
They were Lomos. That's right. That's right. Yeah,
It's
they
been a little bit.
It has been a little bit. They flared really beautifully.
Also, it was like, hey, Phil, do you want to be the DP tomorrow?
Yeah, right. I was like, yeah, sure. What is here? What do we have? What's the menu?
Yeah, it was like, here's a camera and here's the lenses we have.
Yeah.
Make beautiful things, Phil.
Did you have a kid like the next day or that night, Andrew?
The night before the shoot. So I was like, obviously in the hospital all day, you know, up all night, and then in the hospital all the next day. So, yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like, technically I could have made it, but that would not have been a wise decision for my life. So.
Be here right now if you went. So, you know.
I want to bring in Allie Pierce as well, because Allie, the wardrobe on this video is really excellent. And hi. Allie. Welcome.
Yeah, Allie.
I mean, that certainly added to the shimmer and shininess of everything. I was just watching it earlier today, and I asked Matt, just like, who did wardrobe on this? And he's like, oh, that was Allie. It's amazing. He said you picked out so much stuff that wasn't able to be used, but it was like all great. I'm just kind of curious, like how you guys, like how working with a band and stuff, on a video that has so many lights and different backgrounds, like what was your process in picking out wardrobe for this film?
You want me to answer that, guys?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think, because I do lots of different projects, and for some reason working with musicians is like a whole beast unto itself. I think that they perform so much live for audiences that they have their own opinions on what they want to wear based on touring and, you know, things like that, or like photo shoots. And usually there's a conversation that I need to have in the beginning with musicians that's like, something that looks really amazing on camera might not be something you'll wear in real life or at a show. So I think that was something that needed to happen before this, because what we ended up going with was really graphic and iridescent and pastels. Like all the band, and Mandy included, are in pastels. And most of those guys were like, yeah, I would never wear hot pink shorts or like a tennis ball yellow jacket, you know, but it looked amazing with the pastel lighting that the boys wanted to do.
Yeah, and I gotta give MisterWives a lot of credit because they don't have like that ego that like some other bands do. Like if the treatment calls for like a outfit that you would never wear, like they are okay with it. Like they trust the process, they trust the people, and they never feel like, you know, I guess uncomfortable, or they're willing to make anything work, and they just show up and they bring it no matter what. And I really gotta give them a lot of credit for it. And I also got to praise, you know, Ali a ton because, as discussed earlier, we come from a genie background, so sometimes like wardrobe is a hard thing to wrap your head around. Director, and but then Ali just shows you things that you didn't even know existed. Like the dress in the Magic Gardens, like I didn't know that was real, but it like was incredible, and like just the way it played with the light and everything. I don't know, it was better than personally I could have imagined it to be.
Yeah, that's fun too, because most of the time directors and DPs tell us not to use reflective clothing. That's like the number one thing people say, you know. And when I got the treatment, it was like iridescent, which is so fun. And I was really happy with the way that turned out in the Magic Garden, for sure. I think that Mandy's first look, I rewatched the video before this, and I was thinking about it because, you know, it has this like feeling of whimsy, and the style of the dress is sort of like, it could be from the 50s, it could be an 80s dress, it could be modern. So it has this like otherworldly thing going on, and then it's also this fabric that's iridescent and takes in all that color and all that lighting that's around her.
That was like a very Wizard of Oz thing. There was like a lot of Wizard of Oz, you know, subtext going on in that video. And I mean, yeah, we had some like really good conversations about wardrobe was so important to this video. So yeah, we definitely like Ali killed it, like, and brought it all to fruition. We definitely like talked through and like came up with lots of ideas, and like Ali put together these look boards and would be in communication with Mandy and the band, and it was just like to make sure everyone's on the same page, and like it was you know, it was no accident. Like it was very methodical how, you know, coming up with like the trajectory of the outfits throughout the video and everything. So
sorry guys, I've been a little distracted. Apparently our live feed cut out for a lot of people in a very strange way. And we're debating, do we just restart it? Not the whole thing. We just kind of pick it up from here. But I'd have to like end this and put a new link in. You guys want to do that real quick so I can go back live? I'm gonna have to like email you all another link.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the guy talking in the box, so whatever you want to do, like.
Yeah,
I'm good with it.
I think it's that thing I was telling you about where Warner Brothers or whoever the label is is able to cut the feed off, I guess, because we played their licensed music, something like that. All right, so let's give this a shot. I'm in that email I sent you guys earlier. I'm going to just kind of send you another link. But no, I mean, we're going to still have this from like a recording standpoint. So everyone that's watching this, hi, everybody. There's now 2 recordings. Bye.
Hi.
Hello.
So I encourage everyone to go to see the video on YouTube and watch it, the MisterWives YYY video, because we weren't able to show it. But yeah, what were we talking about? This has been a big distraction.
wardrobe.
Oh, look, Sean Hoffman's
Wardrobe.
here. Sorry, Sean, no sound on this, but yeah.
We were talking about what when we left off.
We're talking about
Progression of the wardrobe.
Oh yeah, so in the story of the video, right? You know, Mandy's kind of the Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole. So that's that first whimsical kind of dress that she's wearing. That I feel like that was a little challenging because there's the stuff in the subway when she's performing with underneath those like bright white lights that also needs to work in all these other nighttime locations outside. So that was a little challenging, figuring out something that would work in those multiple environments.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it
It's
did
sort of
work,
like-
and that was what was great about it.
I mean, it's sort of the glue that like holds it together, if you know, because everything else has this like lighting that kind of like unifies everything. But you obviously there was no control over the lighting down there.
No, and I mean anyone that's interested, like we didn't actually have a permit for that location, and we didn't light anything because we were told that basically if you try to get a permit for like SEPTA, you have to go to the city. SEPTA, there's like 3 different like municipal agencies you could deal with, and it's a bureaucratic nightmare. So we were instructed actually by the film office to just steal it. So that's what we did, and we tried to keep it like, you know, super like skeleton crew. We ran down there and we shot under like these disgusting green fluorescents. But it was such an epic like space, and it had such character. Like it's one of my favorite scenes in the video personally, and it is all just because it's just all about Mandy's performance, and we kind of left all the like, you know, lighting voodoo and all that stuff. But I have to give a lot of credit to Steve Perron, who edited it over at Neighborhood Film Company. He is the man because he edited it. He made it great. He also painted out a homeless man in the background of that shot because we couldn't ask that kind sir to leave. And then our colorist, Jamie at Company 3, then took the look from the rest of the video and actually added a lot of color into a very grossly lit, you know, scene in camera. And, you know, without like, you know, the magic pixie dust that Jamie sprinkled on that scene, it wouldn't shine as much as it does.
Yeah, that was a cool location.
And it wasn't it the first location you guys shot too? And Mandy was like, "Oh, it smells like piss down here."
Well,
I'm surprised you only had one person you had to paint out down there, just a single person. Usually there's tons of people down there.
Yeah, I was gonna say even during rush hour, I feel like it's so big down there. You get moments where it feels empty, you know. But
yeah, but it was weird because we were having a little bit of an issue, and we were kind of a little bit behind schedule. The classic music video problems, and you know, it was weird because we sold them on this Technicolor Dreamworld, and we really wanted, you know, Mandy to have like this wow factor. So we wanted to start with something like colorful where she could really get into the groove, but it was more like, all right, cool. So we don't have a permit. So anyone that's not necessary has to stay up here. We're going to sneak down here. It's going to smell like urine, and, you know, welcome to, you know, magical Philadelphia. You know, it was a kind of an awkward way to start, but the good news is once we played them some playback, they were like, oh, got it. It might smell weird down here, but it, you know, in camera, it really shines. And I actually think it was probably the best way to start because it was just like, do your thing. You have this whole subway concourse to dance and, you know, have fun in. And it's just weird. We could have shot that for like 3 hours because it was just so much fun.
There you have your finished FPJ. Thank you for watching How to FPJ.
I don't know what that was.
But anyway,
Hill might be watching something else. Guys, so I want to kind of get on to the next video just because we, you know, we lost a little bit of time with that little hiccup we had. So I'm going to try and play this Paramore video without sound because let's see if this doesn't create a problem. I'm going to also, Allie, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Let's play this. Let's see if I can do this right. Sorry.
So this video is a couple years old, just to kind of give you everyone.
Yeah, tell us about it.
This video is a couple years old, but it's probably the most satisfying video I think that we've ever done, and unless Andrew disagrees. But basically, we got this kind of on a whim after they saw a bunch of treatments they didn't like, and they kind of gave us some ideas that they did like, and we kind of catered our treatment to what they wanted, and then we kind of just ran with it. And basically, Andrew was living in LA at the time. I flew out there, slept on his couch, and we didn't sleep, and we wore entirely too many hats. Andrew drove the grip truck, and somehow we made this thing. So, yeah.
We're going to play without sound, so we can definitely just talk over it.
I was going to say, I wonder if even talking over the sound would, whatever, it doesn't matter. I've heard
Yeah, that's a question. Do you want to risk it?
No,
I think it's fine because we're all talking about the technical stuff, but
Yeah.
So these clouds are what did you guys do with these clouds? I mean,
There's
obviously
color blasts and
yeah,
inside
color
them.
blast.
And the white rope is it's multi-line with DMX run down it and zip cord, and it's just white gaffed all the way around it.
Yeah, that was a big nightmare between Grip Electric and Art to try to hide, because this is before like a lot of the stuff was like really wireless. We got a huge hookup from PRG lighting out there, so we used a lot of event lighting for this video. And
we tried to do it all in the Luminaire, and it crashed. Like,
I'm familiar with that.
While the band was like out there and like in wardrobe and ready to go, and this video almost killed us. I was like so stressed out.
We overloaded the universe with too many gags. That we had to bring in a lighting board, and luckily one of our electricians, who's actually an ex-Drexel guy that went to school with Zach and I, Evan Nye, just happened to have. So he ran home, got his console, and we had two guys behind a curtain triggering all this stuff. Our Best Boy Electric on Luminaire, Evan on the board, and somehow it worked.
Matt, can you talk about like some of the challenges of remote control lighting on the fly like that? Like, obviously it brings a huge production value to the project, but also whipping it up like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, so I mean, I feel really blessed that I got to shoot this because at the time I didn't know a ton about it, and now I think on all of our sets, like, having an iPad with some kind of control is almost like, a necessity. Most sets just have it because we can do it now. But this was like pretty new back then. And you'll see, like, when she's falling from the sky, those are all quasars. Like, this is the time before Asteras existed. So they're all hard lined into that rig. And luckily, our gaffer, Blake Farmer, who's incredible, and our best boy, Kevin Miller, they were like really pushing this technology, and they had it in their kits, and they just really wanted to learn more and flex on it. So when we came up with this like crazy idea, those guys had been playing with it for, I think, few months at the time, and they were
I'd been working with them a lot, like as an electrician on set, so I knew like what they were capable of with this stuff, and like I knew what was within the realm. So like all of these lighting cues written into the treatment and everything, like I knew whether or not we could do them. Obviously, I was a little over ambitious, I think, when we crashed it with like 5 universes and whatever.
But yeah, I mean, that was going to be my question for you guys, just both of you with a lighting background and obviously still working in the electric department on a bunch of different sets. I mean, you clearly think about this stuff, I think, a little more than as a script's being written or a treatment's being written. And I mean, how like important is that to just your process? Do you like always take that into consideration? Or sometimes you just try and push like the lighting outside of the concept?
Well, I mean, so personally for me, it's like I can't help but think about it like that way. And so many times with the music videos, like the budget, like not really this video doesn't really apply like that, but like sometimes the budget's limiting, that like a lot of your eye candy, a lot of your like visual appeal is gonna happen through these lighting cues. A lot of your like drama and like the different whatever story beats that you're trying to get across visually, like you're not gonna like have a million locations. You're not gonna have a bunch of actors or a big scene, like, and if it's just one person in a room and you need like the the dynamic to change suddenly. It's like, how do you do that better than lighting? So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it allows us, since we have the background, we know what is doable fairly quickly. This video is not representative of that. We finally got a decent budget and a decent crew. I think we were running like 6 and 6, for Genie on these days. And a couple things to note, like one, we got the hookup from the studio because it was a friend of ours, good friend that ran the studio, but it was a white studio and we needed it black. So it created a really big amount of work for the grips because we couldn't afford to paint it black and then have them paint the whole thing back white because, it requires so many paints, so many coats to go back to white. So what we did was black it out with solids. And we rented so many 12 by and 20 by solids that Cinelise didn't have anymore. So they started giving us 60 by 20s and 40 by 20s. And you should have seen the looks on the grip when I told them that they
wanted to kill us.
And they kept going, well, why wasn't it a black studio, guys? And like, well, we couldn't afford that. So, but so it was a big blackout. You can see there's not really a grid. So the grips then went in and made a custom grid. A lot of times with like triangle truss and steel pipe. And it's really a mixture of like a lot of sky panels. I think there was like 4 lighting, what we called the Truman wall, which was the, back cloudy wall scape that the car has crashed through. There's 2 in that big softbox you see there. We would actually mix colors a little bit on those, and that just to give like an top light ambient or a shot further down the set. And then the performance had sky panels actually on stirrups, just like kind of top lighting them, mixed with all those color blasts that are in clouds in the foggy floor. And then there was
LED Lecos, RGB.
Oh yeah, we had the lusters and a bunch of dumb Lecos, just regular old tungsten ones. So it was kind of a weird thing because we used some 5Ks as well. So it was like either RGB or tungsten. Like it was very like
you turned an 18K on once and you were like, get that thing out of here.
Yeah, like we had such a hookup with these guys. Our good friend Blake had an 18K and he was like, I'll bring it. And it was like, whoa, when you get a free 18K, like as a DP, you're like, oh, I'm going to use that. And then it just ruined everything. It was the worst. But beyond that, it was kind of interesting too, because then we had like 3 guys on special effects squad just to keep that low fog. Basically, I don't think technically the Tube of Death is the one that has all the holes in it. I forget what this was called.
Yeah, that's a Tube of Death.
Okay. But they were just constantly having to hose down the floor to get that low hanging fog.
Oh yeah, we didn't have the Tube of Death. That's the one with the holes in it. Sorry.
Right. But they're constantly doing that, and at the end, there's Ritter fans that they're throwing snow into, and that's raining down. You'll see there's a couple lightning strikes. I'd never used those before, but the small guys, we had those.
Paparazzi.
But it was wild, and then. Like the whole front performance and like what I guess we could call the Nickelodeon style set. There's top lights over all the band. There was those 2 sky panels filling it with a little bit of like back ambient and backlight. And then, it's a pop band with an attractive front lady. So you have to make sure that she looks really good. So we had to get a front source, but we steady cam flying in and out, pretty much, having free reign. So we had to do a 20 by steel pipe goalpost over the top with an X50 and a Chimera. Basically, like we couldn't have done it if the crew wasn't as sweet as they were, because every time they asked, like, well, what do you think it's going to be? I'd be like, 20 by. Like 20 by is like as small as we went with most things. So it was a little silly, but it's what we needed because we were shooting. Plus, we were shooting anamorphic in a big studio. We wanted to see that depth. I mean, Andrew, what was that Truman wall? Like 80 feet wide or something?
Yeah, it was 80 feet and not tall enough, but 12 feet tall.
Right. We can only afford to go 12 feet tall. And then our department had the great idea of putting curtains on the side to kind of help, fill in the gaps. But it was just a wild experience. We went shopping for trees. I didn't even know you could do that, but you can in LA. we drove around a place called Green Set, and we jumped in a golf cart, and they took us. This whole place has like 3 blocks worth of different trees. You can get prehistoric trees that belong in dinosaur sets. Like there's a whole warehouse of Christmas. It was a weird experience, but it was nice to see how big stuff can be.
So speaking of big stuff, shifting to more of like a director producer type question. Obviously I've worked with you guys on projects where you've made a ton out of basically nothing. And then you guys got this gig, which obviously was like quite a different tier of budget. How quickly did that like different tier of budget end up feeling like it wasn't as big as it started with once you started working on the project?
Mo money, mo problems. Because I mean, yeah, as soon as you have like a little bit bigger of a budget, you're like, oh, we got to like put it on the screen. We got to show off like, you know, what we can do with this money. And then once you start adding all these other elements, you're like, oh wait, we really need Teamsters to drive all these trucks. Oh wait, we need like 6 more people. Like our special effects crew went from 1 person to 5 people. You know, and you just, yeah, it just grows, and then before you know it, you're like, oh my god, where I thought we had a big budget. Doesn't feel like it feels like, you know, you just max it out. I don't know what it is about me and Matt. I just feel like we like it's hard.
Like a small budget at the end because, you know, like just more set pieces, like you said, more money, more problems. Like he drove the grip truck.
It's a 10-ton like grip truck too, like with air suspension. Like I was not supposed to drive it. You need a CDL. And, yeah.
He drove that. I drove a stake bed to return like I think trees at one point. We didn't realize we needed a stake bed, but then we had to pay like hazmat shipping for the huge CO2 tanks to show up for special effects, and they were like, "Oh well, we needed someone to pick those up," and like, you know, it's just like weird, like little things add up so quickly. We were trying to rent that car, for instance, that's crashed to the back wall. But you're like, okay, cool. And you start looking up like, you know, car rentals. We're in Los Angeles. You can get whatever you want. And they're only like $250 to $500 a day for the car we wanted, which is a lot of money. Like, but we're like, all right, I think I can budget that. And then all of a sudden, like the delivery fee that they charge is like triple what the rental is. And you're like, oh, well, we're screwed. So,
well, that car was our Best Boy Electrics. And it did not drive, and I used my AAA free tow miles to tow it from Burbank to El Segundo.
Yeah.
What did you tell him? Like, I need my car delivered to a studio?
Yeah.
Our good mechanic friend works at this studio, and he's going to work on it after his shift is over. But I definitely, because I believe Andrew went to go put out another fire, so I think I was actually left with that guy. But we were armed with a couple $100 bills in our pocket in case it went wrong, but we did not have to spend those, which was great.
So obviously, no money is enough money. But can you guys also just talk about kind of like, and my experience is that you guys have always gotten creative with these projects and kind of over delivered a little bit versus what the budget range is. Has that afforded you opportunities to like get the next tier of video signed?
Yeah, definitely. I don't recommend it as a strategy, but I mean, and it like we started out with like I paid I think $4,000 ish for the first video that we did out of my own savings, and that was the whole budget. So like that was what I was willing to spend. That's all I had, but that's what I was willing to spend to like be a director, you know. And then that led to the next video, so it was worth it. And then it's like you're always like saying, oh, we'll do this one like for cheap, you know, like we'll go above and beyond so we get the next one. And like that just never ends. Like, you know, we got this Paramore video, but then like, you know, after that you're still pitching on like lower budget videos after, and then you're like, all right, we'll do that again so we get another good one. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy. I mean, for anyone out there that doesn't live in the music video world, it's like very strange because most budgets are like 10 to 25,000, you know, if you're lucky. Like most, you know, smaller bands are sub 20,000. So to get something greater than 25,000 it's really difficult. Like, you know, at that point you have to have a name attached to it, like Paramore, like, you know, Jay-Z or, you know, whatever. But it's just, and they expect it to look like the best commercial, they've ever seen. So the expectations are very high and the budget is very small. So no matter what, you have to play this game. Like, that's just inherent in music video making, in my opinion. But we kind of push it a little too far.
Well, it's also worth noting, specifically this video, I don't think we would have gotten it if we hadn't done another freebie for Brick and Mortar, the video called 4 Yellow Walls, which Richie Brown co-directed with me, and he didn't take that credit, but he totally did. And we did that video just like on favors and like a few $100.
We spent like $400, I think, to make that.
And we shot it at Woodshop Films. Like, I think all the money just like was like, hey, let us shoot in your studio, and then we just like brought props for free. Like, we gave Ratface like $200 or something for some props. And Paramore, when they were looking at director reels, saw that video, which was like super weird and very colorful. So they were like, I feel like they just like wanted to not go with a mainstream person on purpose, So that's
right. It's just a good note that, like, just don't let budgets limit your creativity, because at the end of the day, we could have shown them, or they looked at videos that were 25,000 that we're super proud of, but they liked the $400 one. Like, I don't know, it makes no sense, but
That makes sense. I mean, sometimes they're just looking for a style, but I think you guys, killed it on this project. I want to bring up just kind of the one Breaking Bad shot. I don't know what you guys call it, but that's what I kind of call it, right?
Yeah, you call it the Jesse shot, I believe, but
the Jesse.
What do you call it?
Jesse Pinkman shot.
Jesse Pinkman shot, right? So let me scroll through to the Jesse Pinkman screen grab, and then you guys have this, which I mean, it's great. Was that a clear reference when you decided to do it?
Yeah,
I think she's talking about like falling apart or something in this part of the song or something.
Yeah, it's like, tell my friends I'm coming down, something when I hit the ground. But so that Jesse Pinkman Breaking Bad behind the scenes photo was actually in the treatment. So like, they open a page on the treatment and like it's that, and I'm like, I want to do that with Haley, and I think it was a big selling point. They were like, that looks cool, let's do it. So I had no idea how we were going to do it,
and then this is what it took to do it.
Yeah, you just make a bunch of promises and you have to deliver on them suddenly,
right? And then you have to break the grip's heart. But it's funny because just a quick thing is like, you're talking about the budget things. Well, yeah, we had more money on this one, but for instance, because we're suspending, a really famous musician, we needed to bring on a stunt person. So I, not really sure what they did to justify their rate, but they were there and they had to be there. So we had to pay them. So
and they got paid the most out of everyone.
Yeah, he was not willing to give us any kind of hookup, but whatever. But he really wanted to do this with a pettibone. For those of you out there familiar with different lifts, and basically that's like a big material handler with an arm that also has a fork on the front. But we had already spent all the money at that point. We had no money left. Like, I think I had budgeted for like a little bit of a lift, like $400 or something. But a pettibone is much more than that. Per day, plus delivery, all that. So we sold them on this, and we had it delivered, but we're scratching our heads because we were out of money at this point. So literally, we looked around the studio, and they happened to have a forklift. And it was
the key grip was like, I could make that work.
Yeah, and he was like, I can make that work. So, and it was interesting because Andrew and I talked about a higher fall too, and we kind of had to break our hearts a little bit because we just had to roll with what we had there. So we found we found this forklift, and that's what we had to use, but it worked.
No, worked great. There's a shot of was that at max height right there?
But
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. But that you can see our stunt person on there making sure it's safe in a harness. Those are just 4-foot quasars rigged to the cage around, cameras up top, and then again, like we had to kind of squash the whole setting with solids that you can see, and all those little like color blasts are just on the ground, and luckily the fog just covers them, you know, and you kind of know a light is there, but you don't really mind because they're doing cool stuff. But
yeah, I mean, this is crazy that this is what you guys did without even just kind of finding this on set.
Yeah, and I got to give Mitch the key grip that there's Mitch doing his thing. He did such a great job because even like, you know, he covered the whole thing with duvetine, like fresh duvetine
and foam, and yeah,
he built an adjustable neck brace that was just skinny enough so the camera didn't see it, but we could adjust it to either our stand-ins or to Haley. You know, he made that thing pretty much, you know, a Cadillac of forklift rigs. It was nice.
Awesome. I've been told that we got kicked off again from Facebook. These damn licenses.
What do we play?
It's so weird because I'm on the Facebooks.
I think maybe because we're just like in it or something. I don't know. But guys, let's move on to, because we're having problems here. Let's move on to, I want to hear about Lincoln because Zach Van Heel's been sitting. Let's see what he's doing. He's probably
making plant juice.
Zach, are you ready?
I'm paying attention this time.
Oh, you
I'm
are?
paying attention. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. What's up?
Yeah. I'm gonna bring Phil back in too. Hey Phil, what's going on?
Yeah, I might jump out. That's the thing. I'll be back though. For some reason.
Wait, Andrew, you can hang out. No, but I guess I just wanted to hear. We don't have any video from the recent project, Matt, that you did. That was that the most recent project before quarantine happened and everything got shut down. You were able to shoot a recreation. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about Lincoln and what that was exactly. I don't know if it's a recreation video or a.
It's historic recreation. Like we were shooting the historic recreations that back up all these, these interviews with scholars and, different people. But basically, Glass Entertainment Group is set out to tell the story of Lincoln, and he's one of the most famous figures. He's on Mount Rushmore. Everyone knows this guy, but like, are we taught the true story of one of our favorite presidents? And sitting in a lot of the interviews and then doing this project, I realized what we're taught in school isn't exactly correct. Like we're taught that he was this abolitionist and he wanted to free the slaves, and that's what he did. Well, technically, he laid the groundwork for the slaves to be freed, but he only did it for a political move to hurt his enemies, which is the South. Basically, their entire economies ran on slavery, so he wasn't trying to be the moral elitist. He was just doing it to hurt his enemies, and the plan was always to send the slaves back to Africa. So it's this really kind of new spin. I guess not even a spin, it's the truth. It's just the truth. We don't hear the truth usually in the history books. So it's sort of this great story about Abraham Lincoln. And
so this was
really more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Well, no, I mean, I think it is really interesting because it's very different from the type of like music videos and whatnot that we just looked at. Like you're not, using a ton of like colorful lighting. You're not, I don't know, moving I imagine you're not moving the camera as much. You're not relying on like quick edits and whatnot. So was this kind of like a new sort of style and format for you? And also welcome Zach Van Heel, who was gaffing on this. Hi. But yeah, I mean, how different was it? How tricky was it to kind of switch gears from some of the other videos that like the ones we just watched to something like this?
It's interesting because I find the music videos always really help. I think because in the music video world, you always want to keep the camera moving. And, in this case, we're doing historical recreations. Do we have Daniel Day-Lewis playing Lincoln? No, we had a really sweet guy named Gabe, but like, is is he really Lincoln? No. So you actually do want to keep the camera moving along because it's a way to jazz it up, because you're doing these recreations that, you know, maybe like a lot of the locations are they exactly period accurate? No, but by, you know, kind of keeping an ethereal vibe and like some soft focus and camera motion constantly, we're able to sell still a beautiful image that, you know, is it 100% accurate? No, but for the, you know, few seconds it's on screen, I think it totally plays. But this was interesting too, because we shot all the interviews. Actually, I took this project over from a previous DP named Dane Long, who's extremely talented. But I was originally the gaffer. So I gaffed most of the interviews, and then I ended up shooting a bunch of them too. But we did it originally master primes to kind of give like a sterile, super sharp, like not news, but like elevated, like normal look to the interviews. And then we switched over to Super Speed Mark IIIs for the recrees to give it something a little bit more softer, a little bit more dreamy, a little bit more classic and, you know, I guess like antiquated kind of feeling. But yeah, I feel like I'm rambling. Sorry.
No, it's cool. I mean, I wish we had some footage from this project. I mean, we didn't really, they're still editing it right now, so we weren't really able to take a look at it. But that was one of my questions for you, was like, why was the switch of lenses considered? And then I think you also added like a pearlescent filter.
Yeah, we put the pearlescent in because, again, we knew we had to keep it dreamy. We had to keep it like not, we couldn't see everything, put it that way, you know. I always feel bad, but the art department totally killed it on this. Bo and John and Steve, because like they're always sold on these projects that the frame is going to be like this big and it's going to be like, you know, a super long lens. But then, you know, once you get in the room, you're like, well, you know, I know we talked about a 75, but let's put a 25 on, and suddenly you open a can of worms for art. But they had the stuff. They were super creative. They worked their butts off, and they could always accommodate the frame. And, you know, so did, you know, Zach Van Heel, Kevin McGlinchey, and the entire, you know, G&E department. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah, you can see some stills here. But another quick thing about this is like, again, I didn't really know Lincoln. I just know he freed the slaves, you know, like I didn't really know the full Lincoln story, but turns out a lot of his life, it's just terrible. Like most of his children die. His first love dies. Like it's just a different time. So the director and I talked about keeping it very dark. So, you know, we most of our keys were underexposed. And if you looked at our false colors, we never pushed anything past like pink, which, you know, some people would consider the skin tone of someone, but that would be like that bright sun coming through the window is like maybe pink on our false colors. You know, our face is maybe green. It's usually a little bit under green. Like, I don't know, we took it to a different kind of like, we took it to a really dark level to kind of like replicate sort of the emotional state that Abraham Lincoln is in for this whole thing. There's like very few moments of joy. So we really kept it dark and ominous and silhouette.
I'm excited to see it. I mean, did you test that out ahead of time, or were you guys just kind of, we're just going to shoot this dark? Or did you kind of shoot any tests ahead of time?
Well, it was interesting because like I liked stuff really dark. I mean, even like getting that Paramore video is pretty dark for it being a pop video. So we didn't really test much. Mostly what our test involves were like testing flicker gags of different like solutions, whether it's like a fake candle that you can put in the background or like a flicker bulb, just because we were shooting at a weird frame rate. We were shooting at 32 frames to give it like a subtle slow motion quality, that dreamlike feel. So we were really just testing for flicker. But I you know, we had been in the field, like I said, I was gaffing and shooting some B-roll. I think, you know, we're out there and with B camera operator Sean Dahlberg, who's the man, by the way. He was tending to shoot stuff a little dark, and when I was given the camera, I was tending to shoot stuff a little dark. So I just think potentially when the footage came down to the edit, I think that the creatives gravitated more towards those looks. So I think that's kind of also where the decision was made to go a little darker.
So speaking of dark, can you and Zach kind of talk about your lighting strategy for lighting in a time where they didn't have any lights?
Dude, it was tricky. How did you feel about it, Zach?
Van Heel.
I mean, we definitely we went in with the plan, and on just on the day we totally switched it up and came up. We had to we kind of just ended up just lighting backgrounds really and just kept everything in silhouette. But it was probably it is a process. We were looking up kind of limelights, what the lighting situation would be then. Yeah, I don't know. Just motivated a lot from outside.
Yeah, I mean, if it didn't come from outside, it didn't really. It was a candle or it came from outside, and that is one thing Zach and I really talked about. Is we're gonna maybe rim light people. We're not gonna do much. Keys aren't our main concern. We want to light backgrounds. We want to light windows. We want to keep people silhouette. We just really want to heighten the drama at all times. But sometimes you're just well, I'm seeing this, but where would the light come from? And sometimes you just gotta say, I don't give a shit. It needs to come from here. But we always really tried to push it from a fireplace or push it off some candles. And it was interesting because usually there's a fire or something, but there's always the background. There's always these little dark spots that they can't be totally black, or else there's nothing for the camera to see. So I mean, Zach can jump in and speak on rigging them. We found the Asteras were really good. So we talked about them in the YYY video, where we can use them for colors, we can change them, whatever. But what's interesting with those lights is that they do a really good flicker gag for fire, and also, you could stick them anywhere. So most of our backgrounds are just Asteras rigged up, and you don't have to run power to them. Just giving a little bit what we call tone, just maybe a 3-stop under, just a little bit of light to the darkness, so you can see something. But we never used them for anything. I don't think we ever used them for anything but a warm color. And what also was really great with those lights is that with the new technology, and I didn't know about this at the time, Zach Van Heel figured it out and then told me, is that I believe it's called layers, Zach, right? Where you can change the tube. So if it's a 4-foot tube, you can only turn on 1 inch of it, or you can turn on 1 inch over here, 1 inch over here. So suddenly, you just throw up a 4-foot Astera, and you well, I want a special on that lamp and maybe that chest. Well, give me an inch on either side, and we're done. It was just instead of putting up a bunch of little dados or whatever and snooting them and all that, holy crap, you throw an egg crate on a 4-foot Astera, jump in with the layers, and then suddenly you have a lot of control, and one light can do a bunch of things for you. But Zach, what do you think some of the biggest challenges were? Because I know the whole thing was a bear and the whole thing was a challenge.
Well, I was gonna say, just jumping off that point, one of the most nerve-wracking was we had a day of shooting a night scene in a moving train, and so just rigging all those lights and trying to figure out what in the world would be motivating middle America at this time period. Absolutely nothing on this train, minus the coal heat and stuff. And it's sometimes hard to get out of that mindset of being oh, where can this light? You can just kind of make things motivated outside of the source just to light it to make it look nice. And sometimes it's hard to break that train of thought. Just being it's from the right. You're oh no, you can just throw a tube up in the back, real dim down, just little pockets you're talking. You can't just have it completely black. You need to make stuff up.
Right.
But totally space size was the biggest thing. We had to shoot in a stairwell that was 5 feet by 5 feet. And that was with a dolly in there and camera operators and actors and trying to light it.
Yeah. And we always pretty much used 2 cameras. Like I said, we had Sean Dahlberg, the man, on B camera. And, as Zach can say, from being a gaffer myself, lighting for 2 cameras, it can suck. It's hard, oftentimes you want to put a flag or a fill or something right where B camera is. And in this case, we couldn't do that, but we still wanted to keep our rules and make it look, as best as we can.
And were you guys doing a lot of turnarounds? Sometimes I feel like recreation scenes, like you're kind of you do all this setup and then you're just like on to the next thing really quick. There's not much, that really drags the shooting out too much. It's just like, all right, we lit this thing for a half hour or an hour, and now we're on to the next thing. Was that the case with this, or did you guys have full scenes you were shooting?
No, I felt terrible. I'm poor Mac and everyone. Everyone did a similar show called Pope a few years ago, which I was the gaffer on. And I think I lost like 8 or 10 pounds doing it, because the unfortunate reality is you're in these big historical locations and you want it to look sexy, so you light it for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. But with 2 cameras, they don't really want to do turnarounds. They mostly want inserts. And, they want a couple masters, but we would shoot stuff for like 15, 20 minutes and then move on. So it'd be like we murdered the entire crew for an hour and a half. They like take a whiz, get a cup of coffee, and then it's break it down and move on to the next thing. Like it was brutal. And I'm sure Zach could probably say some not nice things, but
just chilling.
Yeah, it was chilling. Yeah, Zach, you sent me a bunch of photos of Kevin McGlinchey, which I don't know. It's great.
But Zach, if you could go back to that one you had of like Mary sitting at the desk. Mary, she was the old Mary Lincoln. You had it up there for a long time.
I didn't know if that was young Mary Lincoln.
There you go. This shot was the first shot we shot, and like just to give everyone a scope, like. There was probably 12 feet of dolly track coming right to left. Sean's over on a longer lens to my left. And it's just everything you don't see is a giant wall of black. So there's probably 2 12-bys, one on the left side, one behind camera. But what was super nice about this is that big bright window you see behind her, we actually had a 4K coming like right through that window, and it's right behind it. So one of the best things I think for this shot was the use of the Matthews Max Menace, because we couldn't afford like a little condor or anything to get the light in the right place without putting a stand right in the shot. So by using the Max Menace with the 4K, we actually can get the light, right in the middle of that window, just high enough out of frame where we need it to be to kind of hit our talent, rake the floor and that like piece of furniture behind her. We kind of did that trick a few times because we're not in that budget to get a lift, but the Max Menace proved like super useful outside of single floor windows.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you guys have achieved from the stills I've seen like a really like large budget sort of historical film sort of look in what I know is not the biggest budget. Like you without having lifts, without having big light, like you're working with M40s here. You've pulled off some really nice tricks and gotten really great looks. The Maxi Menace, it's really interesting that you can use that in place of a lift that gets up to, I think, John, you might know better than I, like 20 feet or something like that.
Yeah, it'll get you out a good like 10 to 15 feet and another like about 15 feet high in that scenario.
Yeah. But I mean, even just dealing with big windows, you guys sometimes just weren't afraid to blow them out completely and embrace it. What was your technique there? I mean, I think you had mentioned you were working with K56 slices, which were like a newer LED light that just kind of came out. How were you using those?
It's a little tricky because like I don't know. I think sometimes like the blown light thing isn't amazing. Like people don't love it, but like I think we sort of were forced to embrace it because if we see out the windows, we might see like a McDonald's or like a electric light or some shit that did not exist at that time period. So blowing the windows out ended up being sort of a necessity. We kind of went for a look where you can see it's blown up, but at least you get some detail. You see that there is stuff out there. but if we couldn't do that always, we use the K56 Slice, which is kind of like their version of like the Aries S360, like the big sky panel. So a lot of times, especially if we're shooting a day scene at night, we would, kind of do a 45 of like an ultra bounce outside of a big window. We would throw the Slice on like a runway stand or something and like kind of just glow it. Usually Art Corner always put like some kind of shears, to help give like a little booklight kind of vibe. But honestly, that, a little LED light could fill that ultra bounce and get it like hot enough to blow out just enough that you like totally bought it as like a blown window even at night. So like, I don't know, I was always impressed with that light. Whenever we used it, I was like, wow, this thing is really bright. The CRI is amazing. And yeah, I just was thoroughly impressed with it. And I don't know, I think Zach should weigh in on his thoughts about it.
No, it's good. It's good and light. It's one person can much more easily handle it. It breaks down to a way smaller case that's way more manageable than the 360 for sure on the one side. So it's definitely nice on that front. And you can break it apart to 4 separate smaller, like whatever 2x3 panel size that'd be. Probably like 1.5 foot, like 3.5 feet. But yeah, no, it was nice just blowing out. And it 4K coming in from the side and that in the background still being able to blow out. So it matched work with all 4Ks and stuff.
Yeah. And then another thing too was really nice is we ended up using it on cloudy days on exteriors. We needed to, give some shape, make, the actors pop a little bit. I don't know. I thought it would, Zach can say, otherwise, but it just seemed nicer to have a light that, you could dim easy. You could run it on a, 20 amp circuit. And it's making people brighter outside during the day. Like I was really impressed with that feature of it.
So what have you guys all been doing in quarantine? I mean, obviously this project was right up until it. How are you spending your lives? Matt, what are you do? You're making pizza and hanging out in your backyard?
I'm working on gaining like 10 pounds as I explore
same
culinary dreams of pizzas, dumplings. I jumped on the sourdough bread train. I'm building a starter right now.
What?
Yeah, I just got like a bulk shipment of homebrew supplies. So
I'm on the complete opposite, just starting a gluten-free diet. So I'm glad I'm not quarantined with you.
It's amazing.
Zach, you're like boiling fish in like a bucket. I don't know what's happening there.
Yeah, all this plant food stuff.
Plant food.
Yeah. Well, soil food, bacteria, things.
Phil, leading up to quarantine, what were you were working on Mayor of Eastman, I think, and is that just shut down for the time being?
For the time being, yeah, it's shut down. They had to, just like every production around, but the director gathered us all in on, it was actually Friday the 13th, I think. And with tears in his eyes, he had never done anything like this before. He unfortunately had to see his entire crew go. And then, thus the ripple effect happened for everybody else that's involved in this whole thing. But, up until that point, it was just basically every day in and out, doing the thing, showing up, and working on that TV show. It was fun. It was a grind. And for a little bit, it was a nice reprieve to like not have to go in that next Monday. But, with that little feeling that's like, oh God, when is this going to start back up? But as far as I know, I think they still have hopes of starting back up. I don't think that they've canceled at all. So, I'm not an official on that one, but I've seen an email that says that they still have hopes to finish the show out, and that they want to keep going. Basically, I just don't know exactly when that's going to happen.
Yeah, they haven't given you a timeline exactly.
No, not exactly. No. But it was a fun show. It was a good time. I've been learning a ton over the course of the last 6 months on that thing, and on Dispatches as well. It's been a really crazy run.
Yeah. Hopefully we get back to work soon, guys.
In the meantime, we have our live streams to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's true.
Which we got kicked off of at a certain point, but this is going to go back. This will go back up non-live afterwards. I don't know, guys. Thank you. I'm trying to think if I had anything else. I've been a little distracted with this, like getting kicked on and off. But it's good to see you, Zach. You're in like a funny haze back there.
Is that what the kids are calling it?
Yeah, I know he's just on his like couch, but
it's the windows. That's what's doing it. Got it.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Rochester treats you well. Oh, sorry, Matt.
No worries.
Thanks,
get out of Rochester soon, Zach. Jeez.
No, it's great up here. I love it. I can walk around. I can go do things. But thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We'll do this some other time, another time, and we'll figure out this whole like streaming issue. Matt, I appreciate you letting us show some of your projects and whatnot. I think you guys have always killed it, and it's really exciting to see that work happen. And I hope you were able to do it again soon. I don't know if you have anything like have heard any sprinkles of work, but hopefully it comes back soon.
Yeah, we still have 2 weeks on Lincoln, so
really,
yeah,
like same recreation type stuff, or
the thought process was, we started shooting in what would we just shoot, like February, March, I guess, and it's obviously still winter and cold here and dreary, so we did most of our interior work first. I think it was like a couple weeks of that, but we owe all of our like non-depressing winter stuff exterior wise still. So I know that they're trying to deliver that, I think, in the fall, so hopefully we shoot the rest of it before then.
Was it originally scheduled for the fall, or was it scheduled for summer?
No, I think we were supposed to be doing it next week. Nice. We're be doing it. Which is like nice. Because I finished that leg, and obviously I was burnt out. I'm sure Zach was too. But so I was like, if I just get a couple days and I lay low, like it's only like a month or so until it picks back up. So it's just kind of weird because since it's not that date yet, like I'm like, all right, like be cool. It's like not that much time has transpired. Like I still have plenty of beer and bread to make. Like it'll be fine. But
it will be fine. We'll get back to work soon, hopefully. I can't promise that, but what the fuck do I know?
My mom will text you.
What's that, Zach?
I said my mom will text you if that comes out non-true.
Uh-oh.
I think Expressway should start making some Bubble Boy suits that everyone can wear to work.
Yeah.
With the arms that come out in the front and everything.
That idea has been tossed around. We're expecting it to be like in our expendable supply, just like Bubble Boy suits.
Well, I mean, I don't like. I know we're live or whatever, but like, what are your guys' thoughts? Like, as Expressway, as a company, like, how do we get back to work? How does a rental company like as vast as yours like deal with sanitation and stuff like that? I'm just curious.
I think it's a good question that a lot of people are grappling with, and there's a lot of good information out like so far. To not veer into politics, I'll just like briefly say that I think that how do we all get back to work is for testing to get expanded. But how are we kind of looking at it right now from the rental shop perspective is like, how can we take our part? Like, obviously we can't affect what people are doing on sets to be safer, but we're talking about putting into place processes to make it safer to like come to Expressway and rent from Expressway. So that includes like rearranging how our facility is laid out and how people interact, and then also taking like more stringent measures as far as like cleaning equipment is concerned. Obviously we can't scrub the bottom of every C-stand foot when it comes back from a job, but we're certainly like revisiting all of the ways we treat equipment, and are hopefully going to have pretty soon like something that we roll out that customers can feel like good about that we're taking every step that like we can within our power to supplement what productions are doing on set to keep crews and actors safe.
Yeah, I mean, we are discussing it at length because that is what we can do at this point, and it's the right thing to do. And so we will be announcing that sort of stuff in a little bit, but we're going to certainly do our best to make sure that the gear that we're putting out there has been sanitized and treated properly, and it's just one less variable in what seems like a very big thing that's going to change how sets operate. But we're going to certainly do like our part to contribute to that and make it help get production back and up and running as fast as possible.
Cool. Hopefully everybody gets to take these precautions across the nation too.
Yeah. Well, I must say you guys all still look incredibly handsome over video chat, so I can't wait to see all of that beauty in real life.
I waited. I'm going to have to shave, like just shave my own hair, cut my own hair soon enough, but I decided not to do it. John, you probably just did it yesterday.
Just right before this.
Nice.
Matt,
Nice.
Matt, are you cutting your own hair? You got like a little mohawk going on?
Yeah. I've been trying. I've been bored. I just wake up and see like this side's good, that side that's good.
What, you got like bad eyesight on your right eye or something?
Well, no, I didn't want to go full mohawk, but then like I was watching tutorials on how to like fade, but like giving yourself a fade, like it's all flick of the wrist. It's difficult, man.
It's amazing. I had Leah cut my hair yesterday. I thought she did a really good job. I was like, you got to fade it this way and then start with a number and then go here and then take the scissors up top. And
she did nice.
Yeah, Phil, it looks good.
Thank you.
I'm afraid that if I start cutting my hair, you'll see these like those gashes I have in my head, Phil. You saw them, like on that one music video we did. I was like bleeding out the top of my head.
Yeah.
I don't want those to just peep through if I start cutting my hair. So
just go full mohawk, man.
Should.
I got a good one to go out on, Zach. Came in on the comments question.
We have comments? People are still watching?
Yeah, well, it's just Jim, but he says, question for Matt and John, can you virtually rub beards?
No, John, you got to turn to your right, the left, right.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Nope.
Keep going. Go.
All right, that's gonna do it for me on this one, folks.
All right, thanks, guys. This is great.
Thank you.
Next time.
See ya. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.